How's everybody doing tonight? Excited to have you guys on. Thanks for tuning in with my guy Austin Byler and myself. Should be pretty good opportunity to talk some baseball. Scotty, what's going on out in Hawaii, man? Hopefully the weather is cooperating out there and it's nice. Feel bad that you're probably stuck inside like the rest of us. 80 degrees out here in California today, so one of these days we'll get back to life as we know it being normal. There
Nick,
he
what's
is,
going
my
on, man?
man.
You talking about 80 degrees? Look at this, man.
Oh
Oh,
goodness, what's the weather like out in Arizona right now?
it's beautiful out here. It's probably like 70 degrees right now. Not a cloud in the sky, but
Yeah.
it's about to get super hot.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's well not super hot, like 90,
Okay.
90.
Okay.
So
Okay.
confidence. I think we talked before this. Confidence is a massive issue. Confidence is a massive issue, and confidence is a massive confidence. I think we talked before this. Confidence is a massive issue, and when I was going through college, high school, professional baseball, I thought that the athletes that move up are the most confident athletes, but I was athletes that move up are the most athletes that move up are the most confident athletes, but I was wrong. It's like you get to that level, and but I was wrong. It's like you get, but I was wrong. It's like you get to that level, and there's a lot of athletes that are lacking and there's a lot of athletes that are lacking confidence. They don't belong. They don't think that they should be on that level. They don't think they should be a professional should be on that level. They don't think they should be in professional baseball. They don't think they can make it to the big leagues. So after going through that, and for myself, lacking a lot of confidence in myself, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but just going through that personal experience, we decided to create a company that helps athletes through that side of the game, help them develop that mindset of champions. And more than just baseball, it's way more than that. It's about life and taking this into the next step in their careers.
Yeah, and we'll touch on a couple things with that, but let's kick it off with some questions. And start it off with you. The first one
Sweet.
I think is a great topic to start with, and comes from Southern California. And Justin, what are the pillars of a quote winning mindset that you think of, Austin, as a player?
It's one of my favorite questions I've ever been asked. And this is an incredible question. I think number one, the first pillar is having a vision. Without a vision, I don't think you have a winning mindset. If you don't know where you want to go, you're never going to get anywhere. So we're just going to wander. And how I like to put it, Nick, is I always use analogies. I like analogies. I think they click well for me, seeing the visual.
Mm-hmm.
So think
Mm-hmm.
so think about California or wherever some of us in here are located, you have the beach and you see the sun setting at the beach and the sun behind the water. And
Yeah.
you can't really see your dream when the sun sets. You just see this like waterfall. It looks like it just goes on forever, this vast amount of water. Well, over that edge, right where that sun sets, where you cannot see is an island with your dream on it. And it's your vision for your life or your career. So if we relate this to baseball, my MLB draft or my call up to the big leagues on the team that I've always dreamed of playing on, the Yankees one day, wherever that is, that's my dream. And I've got to go through the waters, the tough waters to get there and go through the currents and get sucked under and get hit down by the waves and maybe swim with the sharks for a little bit, kicked off the boat. And it's tough, right? It's tough when we're having to develop a winning mindset because it's really
Mm-hmm.
easy nowadays to lack confidence and lack self-belief in ourselves. So number one, we've got to have a vision. That's the key pillar to anything. And number two, committing to ourselves. Once we have that vision, we've got to commit to ourselves on a daily basis, every single day, as hard as that may be, to get to where we want to go. If that end dream means that much to you, you're going to do what it takes every day, even when it sucks. Like we talk a lot about embracing the suck. It sucks. It sucks. Like we talk a lot about embracing the suck. Like even when it sucks, we're going to do things that are going to help us get to our dreams. So if you talk about a winning mindset, especially during this time where we have a lot of time off, you can ask yourself every day, what am I doing today to get me one step closer to my dream? And before
Yeah.
you do something, hey, is this actually going to help me get there, or is this taken away from my dream? Is this food that I'm eating taken away? Is my 8 hours of binge video gaming taken away? Can I cut 2 hours back and do something for my mental game or do something physically to help me get there? So creating a vision, man, and commitment to yourself are the two biggest pillars of a winning mindset to me.
Yeah, and I think that, one of the things that I've talked to some players about that train with me is this shelter in place is the ultimate challenge for people to get their mental game right. Because, when you're stuck at home, you get a little stir crazy. And, what are things that you can do, to get yourself mentally strong so that, if you can withstand, or if we can withstand something like this, you take that to the baseball field. I think it'll make you an even stronger person.
Absolutely, man. You talk about that like you're getting hit with adversity every day. It's like how do you push through failure? How do you push through the unknown? When you step into the unknown, it's a scary place. And
Yeah,
for some of us, maybe it's a new job, or maybe it's no job. For some of us, it's having no business to go out and no speaking engagements, things getting canceled, our athletes not being able to work with us in person. There's a lot of different factors that come into it. In person, there's canceled, our athletes not being able to work with us in person. There's a lot of different factors that come into it. As a child or as an athlete, it could be our parents being affected by this or somebody actually getting the disease and getting
sure.
sick. But when you commit to things during these tough times and during the failures, they lead to your next greatest accomplishments. And every time you get through the failures, you're building that self belief. Not only that, but confidence in yourself to get to where you want to go. And those are some big pillars, man, just to take into your life and to overcome a situation like this builds grit. Talk about grit, like doing something every day, even when it's not the best thing that you possibly doing. It's not the most
Mhm.
fun, but guess what? We can set aside a time to help fulfill our dream to make us a bigger and better person and a better version of ourselves.
Yeah, I think what you just hit on is right there. One of the things, Austin, that I know we talked about, I had a mentor when I was getting towards the end of my playing career, but also uh, starting my coaching career, was a Houston Astros scout by the name of Doug Deutsch. And Doug was the area scout in Southern California for the Astros and Royals for a long time. And one of the things that he shared with me, this was, God, a long time ago, the Astros talked about of their 25-man roster, they felt that half of the players, either one didn't want to be there or two didn't believe that they belonged there. And I think that a lot of people have this misconception that once you get the pro ball, you're this mentally strong person and things like that. But I think it's the reverse. I think that a lot of those people are not mentally strong, and that's what prevents them to getting to that next level. When you were playing, Austin, and you had a much longer playing career than I did, was there ever a point that you doubted yourself that you belonged there? Whether it's the big leagues or in college, and how'd you go about fixing that?
Yeah, there was a lot of times, man. The first year, thankfully, I had a lot of success, so I believed I belonged. It's funny when you have a little success, you always believe you belong, really, no matter what. But once you
Mm-hmm.
experience some failure, that's where your true character shows. And for me, man, it was after my first year, and I got done my first year, crushed it. I mean, I was fast tracked to the big leagues. Everything was great. Life was good. I thought I was going to make it. I knew in my mind that I was going to make it. And then I hit with the drug test, and I failed the drug test in the off season, and it just smacked me in the face. And I went back that next spring, and it was just this weird. I just had so much anxiety, so much fear of just looking over my shoulder, wondering what people are thinking, wondering if I have an opportunity to still play. And that was really the first time that next spring training in 2016 that I first doubted myself. I really did. And I was going through
Yeah,
spring, and I just couldn't figure it out, dude. Like I was swimming. I couldn't figure out the swing. Defensively, it was fine, but my swing was just off. It wasn't there. And I realized, and now looking back, it was all up here. This was the main factor. None of the skill sets changed. My body didn't change, but up here I was way different. I lost all the practices that I was doing on a consistent basis and
sure.
just started to show up and think that I could just go there and count on my physical skill only. So that was where the confidence lacked. And that's where I noticed it wasn't just me. There was millions of other athletes. You've seen it too. You see a guy at 5 o'clock who's hitting bombs, 75, 20, like, just bombs all over. But then they get to the game and they're hitting 120 and they have no homers and no RBIs. And you wonder why. Well, guess
Yeah.
what? It all starts at the top. And even at that level, man, it's really easy to lose your confidence on that day to day when it's every single day, pitch after pitch, failure after failure.
Yeah, and I think that that's confidence, and your mental game starts with, just incremental steps, whether it's hitting off of a tee, hitting off of a machine, hitting off of another player that's really good, you can store that in the back of your mind so that when things aren't going your way, you can go back and pull it out and go, hey, you know what? There was a time when I was, the king of the hill. And I think that's such a big part. One of the
Nick,
things what's that?
sorry, I was going to say I got a question for you, and
Yeah, sure.
on that spectrum, because you coached at a very high level. You coached at Stanford, San Jose State. You're at some of the biggest and best programs in the nation, especially on the West Coast. What about confidence for you in the coaching standpoint? I don't think anybody ever talks about this, but I know
Yeah.
just now coaching and working with coaches, it's a little different. And there's a lot of times that you lack, maybe you lack clarity on a decision, or you feel like you second guess yourself.
Yeah.
How is that from a coaching standpoint? Is it the same as when you were playing, or how does that work? Do you ever lose confidence in yourself or your players?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a coach, it's experiences and having gone through them. One of the things that I talk to people about is my last time in a uniform was at Stanford. We were, I think, finished the year 8th in the country, and had an amazing year. A year after the team had won like 28, 29 games. And one of the things that I talk to people about was I coached at Dartmouth, a very prestigious Ivy League school, and then went to San Jose State. And one of the things that I questioned was, would the same things that I was coaching at the Ivy League translate to coaching at San Jose State? Because, inevitably sometimes people will say those players are a little bit better. And the thing that I learned is the same thing I taught at the Ivy League is the same thing I was teaching at San Jose State, and it worked. And then when I went and I just, kind of kept working at it and trying different things so that when I did get to Stanford, I wasn't overwhelmed with, having, playing in front of 4,000 people, having people scream at you. And, the same problems that players had at Stanford, they would have at San Jose State or have at Dartmouth. And the thing that I learned is those kids maybe they made the adjustments a little bit quicker, a little bit faster. And so the one thing I always tell people is that my time when I was working at San Jose State was critical because we didn't have all the bells and whistles that we had at Stanford. So that when I got to Stanford, I didn't feel like I needed, an automated ground ball machine because I learned I just had to hit ground balls,
Yeah.
And the one thing that we really did that changed kind of how I thought what we did, the win-loss total when I was at Stanford was just trying to pump the guys up every single day, giving them something to hang their hat on so that even if they had a bad day at practice, it was like, hey, man, you remember we were working on a day or so ago? You did an awesome job with that. And just trying to reinforce the positives in what they were doing, even when they were having some negatives. And that was a huge point for me to understand was that, hey, those guys, they need as much of a pat on the back as anybody else does.
That's massive, man. I love that. Just dropping little nuggets on them too. I mean, if you're struggling, one, it's tough to be an athlete at any age, I think, and not
Yeah.
just in high school or college or pro ball, but anywhere you're at, it's tough. You got pressures, you got parents with expectations, you've got family who, when you come home for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and all they talk about is baseball or your sport
Yeah.
that you play, and when are you going to get drafted, when are you going to go pro, when are you going to do this or that, and all these questions about baseball, but never about you. And you mentioned the great point of just giving them some encouragement, some positive reinforcement. I think that's big on both a coaching and athlete standpoint because we all want to be affirmed about like not only our work and what we're doing and putting in, but it just helps encourage them, I think, on a daily basis to help us keep pushing for our goals, even when it might be that mid-season rut or at the end of the season in pro ball when you're over it and you played 120 games and it's 105 in Visalia in the middle of August and you're pissed
Yeah.
off because you're not playing. Like there's so many factors that go into it that positive reinforcement is so massive.
And I think one of the things we got St. Helena Fitness, Michael Gastelum, who was
Nice.
a guest of ours last week. One of the things I think is key, and I learned this at Dartmouth, is that physical conditioning helps with the mental side of it as well. Because if you're in physically fit, mentally you don't break down. You're strong mentally because your body isn't failing you. And I think that's a huge, component, of what people can do right now. What about when kids are at home right now, whether they're, high school age, college age? I got a couple pro guys that I see logged on. What can they do to start working on their mental game? Because I think that's something that they can do right now that will translate over the next, years of baseball.
It's so real, man. It's a great question. There's a few things that, at least for our athletes and some of our programs, that we've been teaching them and just encouraging them to do. And as we all know, it's a tough time for a lot of athletes who aren't able to actually do stuff physically, so they're kind of losing their mind. I know there was one of the Padres coaches was in our Bible studies on Friday, and he goes, "Oh, one of our most high-paid athletes on our team is losing his mind with anxiety right now because he doesn't know what to do." So you pro guys in here, like, it's real, like this stuff's real. A lot of the college athletes in here who don't know what's going to happen, who's coming back, that stuff's real. But how do we put ourselves in the best position to succeed? Because this summer is going to be the most important summer of our life. And if it doesn't happen, then the fall is even more important, right? It's going to be the most competitive year of high school, college, and professional baseball that we've ever seen. So to put yourself and set yourself apart, there's a few things that we can do. One, my favorite thing, and this is how I started the change in my life, because I was super negative. I had a ton of anxiety, a ton of depression, and this is what started for me was gratitude, daily gratitude, whether it's in the morning first thing, whether it's the last thing you do before you go to bed, gratitude. And what that means is write in a journal 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for every single day. It's really easy to find the negatives, and the guy who cut you off in traffic, and the teacher who flunked you, and the dog who pooped on your face, and the bird who pooped on you as you're walking at the homeless shelter. True story. It was crazy. But like, it's really easy to find the negatives in our life and the social media that tries to tell us why we're not good enough or our like count isn't good enough. But guess what? When you find the good things in life and you write them down, good things start to happen. You start to picture those good things in your mind. It starts to rewire and hardwire our brains. And our brains are 2 million years old. Like, they've been programmed to protect us from an early age. But guess what? The gratitude rewires us to see the good in life rather than the negatives. And then 2, meditation and visualization. A lot of athletes, when they hear meditation, like, "Oh no, you hippie!" Like, no way. But guess what? Do you want a calm mind when you're at the plate? Yes. Do you want a calm mind in the bottom of the ninth when you got Tony La Russa in the stands, and this is the last play and you're a closer, and if you get this last save and strike out the side, you go to Double A instead of sticking High A? I think I'd like a clear mind to be able to focus and unleash the best potential that I have and my best abilities. So meditation and visualization. There's free apps. Calm is a free app. Deepak Chopra and Oprah have a free app. 21-day meditation. It's incredible, and it's step-by-step guide. It walks you through it. So those are 2 massive things that you can start doing. And then a third one, which is really simple, is an Audible book, positive podcast, or reading a book. Like, you can't tell me you don't have time to read a book right now, or to get on a podcast on a walk in the morning. Like, yeah, you might wake up at 9:30, 10, but guess what? You still got 12 more hours, 13 more hours to do something with your day. And you don't have the schedule of a professional schedule where you're there all day, or you don't have a college schedule where you've got all this class. You do online class. You're all finding out how easy online class is. Like, you can't trick me. That's why we try to take it in college. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So read something positive, like, that's going to pump you up. Listen to something that's going to serve you, like anything that can serve our body. Our nutrition, right? Like, what we put in our body is essential. What we put in our body tricks this thing. So if I'm crushing bread and PB&Js and shakes from Sonic and all this other stuff, Dairy Queen Blizzards, big time vice for me. Like, even nutrition can trick this thing to fueling you for the future. So just develop a good habit. This is such a crucial time to build better habits for our life. And if your life is that important to you, you're going to do something about it. And that's the biggest thing. But it all starts with the decision, Nick. We've got to make the decision to change our life. And we've got to make a decision to take those steps forward and to get there.
One of the things I love about what you do, Austin, is you post on daily, whether it's talks, interviews, just stuff to get people, kind of pumped up and everything. And one of the things I love about what you're doing is you've got programs through your website, Major League University, that are, free right now. So talk about those and what you do during those.
Absolutely. So I'm going inside. It's getting dark. I'm all over the place. So we've got an online baseball school going on right now for 4 weeks. And the reason behind this is, hey, we know everybody's stuck inside, right? Coaches included. So we're like, well, why don't we just do an online baseball school to make people feel like they get to go to baseball every day? So we started an online baseball school, completely free, 100%. And it's happening every day, 1 p.m. for athletes, 2 p.m. for coaches, and that's Pacific time, so West Coast time. And it's been incredible. Had over 250 athletes show up to the athlete one, over 50 coaches, and it
Hmm.
was unbelievable. Just hearing from different people, different perspectives, having
Yeah.
other coaches come in and just chime in. So that's been really good. And then I run an online mentorship program, and that's all about developing confidence for
Yeah.
athletes anywhere from 12, 13 to 18, 20. So high school, college, that's the main group. We have a few athletes who are a little younger, but that's been huge, man. It's more of an exclusive group where we work once a week for an hour on different tools, different leadership skills, different things that are going to serve you more than just baseball. It's not just about the sport. It's way more about life. And that's what I really want to get across to these athletes. And that's been going incredible, man. So those are two things that have really been picking up here, especially with this downtime and people
Sure.
having to stay inside.
We got a question, and if you guys have questions, hit the comment section below and type them in. Decker Performance, what are you reading right now, Austin?
Yeah, shout out Deck. I'm coming to check out your place tomorrow, so you better be in there early in the AM because I will be there this time. Not hitting the snooze again. You talk about habits. I'm over here snoozing this morning. That's a different story, but I'm reading Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. Unbelievable. Highly recommend. I'm listening to Start With Why from him as well on an Audible. So when I run or walk, I usually take like daily walks, and I love taking walks, just clear the mind, and that's where I listen to that. And
Yeah.
then what was the other one? Oh, Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. She's
Okay.
incredible. And this one's more of like an intro to Dare to Lead, which is the next one I'm going to get from her. But I also got one. It's something about the All Blacks, like some rugby team in Australia, some leadership book that I forget the name, but it's sitting on my desk. So that's going to be the next one. But those are a few books that I've been reading. And do Leaders Eat Last. If you like leadership at all, if you want to improve it
Yeah.
all, you talk about skills. It's the first book I ever pulled out my notepad for. It's incredible. So I'm highly legacy. That's what it is. Yes. Thank you, Justin. Legendary. Air next to you, coach. Let's go.
There you go. One of the books that I think is great, and it's not just for coaches but also for players. It's by Jay Billis called Toughness. Jay
Mm,
Billis is one of the commentators for basketball, college basketball, and it's a great read. And it really talks about it's all about mental toughness and about how to
very
really get
nice.
your mindset on things. Um, let's switch to some playing questions. For you, Austin. One of my guys, Jack, down in Fairfield. What's your approach to an 0-2 or 3-2 count?
Ooh, great question. Great question. So there's a couple different approaches here, and I'm going to name a couple of them. I'll tell you what I did, and then maybe something that works for you just to give you a different thing. So I don't think there's one strict approach with anything that we do. So
Okay.
0-2, 3-2, let's start with 3-2. 3-2, it doesn't change. I'm in hitter's count. He's got to come to me. If he doesn't come to me, I don't have to swing. So 3-2, I'm still looking for my pitch. I'm looking for my pitch, which is a fastball middle away that I can drive because I'm in the driver's seat. If he wants to throw me a 3-2 breaker or change, which it happens a lot when you're in the middle of the lineup, especially, and it sucks, and you're like, well, whatever, dude. Like, I'll sit for my fastball. I'm going to stick with me, right? And then 0-2, there's a couple different ones. And this first one, originally I used to think, okay, choke up, battle the plate. Something that always stuck with me was Coach Johnson. He's at U of A right now, and he would tell us, hey, you need to expand side to side, but never expand up and down. If you expand up and down, if you take those and he calls it a strike, we'll handle that as coaches. But if it's in and out, that's you. We're going to get on you for in and out. So make sure you handle in and out, especially in college. In high
Yeah.
school, they expand a little bit. Going into pro ball, the zone shrinks a tad. The umpires aren't the greatest. Sorry if there's any umpires out there, but they're not still not the greatest. But 0-2, you got to battle up, you got to shorten up. But I still think like even shrinking the strike zone, and it sounds weird, but one of my teammates, he's with the Red Sox now, and we always wondered, hey, why don't you strike out? And like, how come you're so good with two strikes? He says, look, fellas, I shrink the zone. I shrink the zone. And we're like, what are you talking about? You shrink the zone with two? We've always been told since we were young to expand it, but something's been told since 1910 to expand the zone with two strikes. And so it's become a belief about every single one of us with two strikes, we got to expand the zone. But for him, he's like, look, I'm going to shrink the zone into my pitch and make him come in my zone. And if he dots it on the corners, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to hit it very well. So those are a couple approaches for me. I expanded in and out. I never expanded up and down. At least tried not to. I can't say I never swung one over my head, but I definitely would try and expand side to side. And still looking fastball though. I'm not looking off speed, two strikes ever. Still fastball timing, getting the good rhythm. Still keep it going good that way.
Yeah, and Jay Johnson is an awesome friend of mine. I know somebody you look up to a ton. And when he was at Reno, you guys had this approach that, I mean, it was, you couldn't strike you guys out. I mean, it was just impossible to strike you guys out. And one thing I know that Jay and I would always talk about is, guys would widen out, and that's almost like changing your swing entirely. And his thing that he preached to me, and I talk to hitters about is, hey, you know what? If you're going to practice, widening out, or you're going to widen out with two strikes, that's something you got to do in practice, and you got to do that a lot. The other thing that I think is critical about that, Jack, whether it's 0-2 or 3-2, is don't look for something you're not going to get. Meaning, if you're hitting ninth and you're at 0-2, don't look for a breaking ball. Look for a fastball. No disrespect, but there's a reason you're hitting ninth. Now, conversely, if you're hitting third and you have an 0-2 count, might not be a time to look for a fastball with guys at second and third, because chances are they might be trying to throw you a breaking ball, in the dirt. And so that those are different approaches, and certainly one's not better than the other, but it's something that each person has to try. And it's just like the mental side of it. As you get better at it, you start becoming more confident, and you realize, there ain't nobody getting me out.
Yep, 100% agree, Coach. And you mentioned even earlier when we talked was, look, we can pump all the iron we want, we can lift all we want, but why don't we train the strongest muscle in our body, our brain? If we start to callous our mind and start to really work on our mindset a little bit and work on our strongest muscle, the one that's going to take us anywhere and everywhere in this world, let's do it, right? So just like you said, Coach, I think it's more of try it out. Like, give it a try. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. There's no cookie cutter answer to any of this. Like, there's no one way to pitch, one way to throw. I think that you got to find your own flavor, right? You go to Baskin Robbins, there's so many flavors. You got to find the flavor that works for you. And if one of these is a flavor that works for you, try it out and do it.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things I like what you do, Austin, is the daily preaching of positivity. And I think that we talked about writing in the journal is key. What are some other resources or things that you talk to people about in terms of building that mindset of just a tough mentality?
Yeah, so there's some really good things to do on YouTube. YouTube's perfect. Go look up Les Brown. Go look up Tony Robbins. Go look up Jim Rohn. Go look up Tom Bilyeu or Bayou. I still don't know how to say his last name, but it's Bill. I think it's Bilyeu. Incredible. Ed Milet. Incredible. Like, go copy genius. Like, there's no reason to try and rewrite the wheel, like, and do something new. It's there for us. These tools are there at our disposal every single day, but it's a choice on whether we go use these tools or we don't, whether we go scroll and surf our social media for 6 hours a day, or we go listen to something that's empowering and powerful, that's going to light me on fire and make me like go run a mile because it fired me up, right? Like, I think motivation is temporary, inspiration is forever, right? It's longevity. So if you have a motivational speech, it's great. Somebody comes in, pumps you up for a day, you're pumped to go hit. That's cool. But guess what? We need some inspiration. And these are some resources just through YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever you listen to. They're huge to go do. So those are some things every day. And then it gets back to the commitment, Coach, is do what you say you're going to do for yourself. Just do that. Like, simple. If it's making your bed, it's making your bed. If it's cleaning the dishes for your mom and dad or for your wife, like, do that. Like, something that you can commit to every single day is going to build confidence. It can be as easy as, like, before I go to bed, I'm going to turn the light off and turn my phone and put it in the other room. And that's it. That's all I'm going to change in my life. That is literally it. Builds confidence. Little daily habits like that start to build up, and then you can start to stack them on top of each other. But I highly recommend not trying to change everything at once. I work with one athlete, and he's like, man, I'm going through some struggles with girlfriend and all these different things. That I'm just going to cut it all out. I got to lose weight. I got to do this, got to do that. I'm like, dude, you can't do this all at once, man. I'm telling you, it's going to happen for 3 days, and then you're going to get right back to where you were. Like, we've got to go simplify everything in life. If we simplify things, it makes it a lot easier for all of us to understand. So just cut little things out of your day. Sometimes you got to cut the people you're around, but just simple tools like that. Utilize what we have around us, man. We have so many resources. There's ample amounts of knowledge out there. Just a decision on whether we choose to use that or not.
Yeah, it's funny because we just had a guy log in that's a coach at Long Beach State, and Long Beach
Nice.
State had, I think, 13, 14 wins last year, and in the abbreviated season this year, they jumped out, and I want to say we're one of the teams that turned it around by Baseball America as a huge program on the rise. And a lot of it
Wow.
was just mindset. When you watch what Coach Valenzuela and his coaches talk about, it's about a belief and just, talking to the players and pumping them up on a daily basis. Now, we had a question that came through. What would be the biggest, what would be some exercises, quote unquote exercises for the mind, Austin, that you would suggest?
Yeah, great question. I think for exercises, it gets to the visualization. So going through and you can do it two different ways. You can do it one sport specific, or you can do it life specific. It gets back to the very beginning. How do you develop a winning mindset, right? It starts with creating a vision for your life. It all starts with creating a vision. If we don't have a vision, we don't know where to go. And I like to say, if you don't believe it, you can't see it. A lot of people say you got to see it to believe it. Well, guess what? If I don't believe it, I can't see it. If I don't believe I can make it to college baseball, I'm not going to be able to get to college baseball. If I don't believe I can win the World Series at Long Beach State, if my athletes don't buy into that, we're never going to see the results. So I think that's one way is visualization. And a lot of people think visualization is just, okay, well, let me think about it. I don't think about it. You've got to feel the emotion behind it. So when
Yeah.
you go through it, and I can give a step by step, but the biggest thing in the visualization, if we're doing sport specific, I always start with gratitude. The first couple minutes, we breathe, we focus on our breath, we see it coming in through the nose, out through the mouth, close our eyes, relax. You can lay down, you can sit up tall. I don't care what you do or what your position is, but just make sure we're calm in the mind, right? Let's breathe. And then let's focus on our gratitude. What are some things we're grateful for? My mom made me cookies. My college dorm is amazing. My roommates are awesome. My coaching staff is amazing. My girlfriend's beautiful. Like,
Hmm.
whatever it is you're grateful for, boom, a couple minutes. Then the next step, my mental highlight reel. Let me get into seeing myself succeed. It's really easy to see myself fail a lot because I probably am still thinking about it from the day before, my 0 for 4, and somebody's yelling golden sombrero in the stands, beer batter. Oh man, I don't know how to handle this, man. They're chanting beer, 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 and I'm just like, one more hit, please, come on, man. But you get into these moments, and it's part of the game, it's part of life. You're gonna have to deal with that. So let's see ourselves succeed. Let me put together my 3 or 4 best at bats I've ever had. Whether that's in little league, maybe that was yesterday, maybe that was 7 weeks ago, or in the
Yeah.
summer ball. Like my best at bats, get through that exercise. You do that about 3 4 minutes, just thinking about seeing yourself succeed. It can be of past events that you loved, or even seeing yourself hitting that pitcher who's on the mound today. If you know him, if you're in college, it's easier. It's pro because you have a scouting report. But high school, you might not know who's pitching. So just visualize yourself hitting your pitch on your time, um, like locked in, right? Not wavering from that. And then the end is affirmation. What's my intent? Who do I say I am? It's really easy for the world to dictate who we are. It's really
Hmm.
easy for me on social media to say, Nick, you're nothing. You suck. Nick, what you're doing is terrible. You having these incredible guests on and having Sanzeri and Rooney and all these awesome people on, it sucks. It's terrible, right? Like I can say that from afar, and people can try and plant seeds in you to make you feel like you're worthless. Or you can compare yourself in your own mind and say, gosh, these guys are taking off. They got stick and balls, got thousands of coaches in there. They're way better than me. They're making a bigger impact. But guess what? Is that real? Not at all. It's just a thought. So let's get back to the thoughts that are empowering for us. So the
Hmm.
last part is that intent aspect. Like, how can I reaffirm myself and who I am? Because at the end of the day, if you put yourself first and you believe in yourself, then you can now empower your teammates, empower your coaches, and be the best version of you for everyone around you. So it's not selfish. It's very selfless. You're putting yourself first to help other people. So it gets to that intent aspect for a couple of minutes, and then back to the breath. Good. So you can go 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, up to you. I do 20 now because I work my way up and I'm kind of crazy with it. But it all started with the 3 minute, just breathe. Let me breathe for 3 minutes with my eyes shut. And you'll be amazed at how hard that is to just sit still for 3 minutes. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And I think that, what you just said, sitting still for 3 minutes, I have a tough time with that right now where I'm bouncing off the walls and everything like
Yeah.
that. And being able to calm your mind down and just relax, take a breath, as you say, inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. That's going to help you slow things down. And then once you get into a game, when you've got a lot of pressure, people are screaming at you, you can practice those same things. I had a coach talk to me about this one time that, hitting is almost like boxing and you're in the corner.
Ooh,
You get stuck in the corner. And if you don't have a belief in yourself, you don't have confidence in yourself, and you haven't been through a routine, you just start kind of waylaying and just throwing punches, trying to get out of the corner. That's a way to practice what you just talked about, that breath of calming yourself down and getting yourself back into the moment so that you can trust your abilities and you can have your best, um, the best version of yourself come out. But if you don't have something to fall back on, whether it's a routine, breath, you don't have anything to hang your hat on when times are tough.
Absolutely, Nick. And I just want to throw one more in there. If you're still in here, whoever asked that question, it's a great question. And I challenge my athletes and my coaches that I get to work with now is, hey, take a cold shower in the morning, a 30-second cold shower. And they go, what are you talking about, a cold shower? Like, not even to mention the neurological benefits of a cold shower and the inflammation that decreases in our body and the metabolism getting sped up and all the amazing health benefits. But check this, like, imagine the first thing I do in my day is the toughest thing I have to do all day long. Turning that water to cold sucks. Going out in the pool in Arizona here at 5 a.m. sucks. It's not fun at all. I hate it. But here's why we do it. And here's why I do it. And here's why I challenge athletes to do it, is because when you get in that cold water, it's the toughest thing to do for your entire day. So you're already overcoming the toughest thing that you have to do all day long. And then you talk about those pressure situations, Nick. Well, when I get in the cold shower in the cold water, I'm like, I can't breathe. And it challenges me to get back to my breath. Like, let me calm myself down. So when I do an interview, when I do a speaking, when I go work with the team, when I'm a coach, or when I'm an athlete in the box trying to get ready to hit in a pressure situation, I can now get back to my breath. So it totally correlates to the game situations, to a test in school, to a tough conversation with my girlfriend or boyfriend, to mom and dad, like, not believing in me and I got to have a tough combo with them. Like, it totally correlates to our life. So I think that's a huge thing to just add in there. If you want to look for a tool, it takes 30 seconds, but it takes the choice to actually do it. And it's really hard.
Awesome. The question that came across, what would you say to the player that is never stressed during a game, or that's constantly stressed out during a game? Pitcher, hitter, position player?
Yeah, so if they're never stressed, good for you. Keep it up, man. Like, hey, air next to you, we'll pound it, we'll blow it up. I'm down. That's awesome. Good for you. If you are stressed and you're constantly worrying, let's identify the signal. Like, step one, identify the signal. Let me recognize and replace. So if I can identify the signal of why am I stressed? Okay, so it takes self-awareness first and foremost. I've got to be able to evaluate, why am I stressed? Is it off the field? Did I have a bad day at school? Was I late to practice and coach didn't play me? Did I not prepare the right way? Did I not get to do my routine because it was a rain delay and I didn't have the same amount of time to go through my exact pitching routine? So on the mound, I'm freaking out. Is it the umpire causing this stress? Is it my own lack of belief in myself? Like, what is causing this stress to happen? That's the very first thing to do. Identify the signal. Once you identify the signal, you can now evaluate the situation. So if I'm identifying the signal and I understand what's tripping me up, I can evaluate, hey, is this thought that I'm believing, all this stress that I'm feeling, is this real or is it fake? Most of the time it's fake, which is crazy to think. We have over 60,000 thoughts a day. And if you think about it, most of those are the same thoughts. Over 95% are the exact same thoughts. It's unbelievable. So if you think about that, most of these thoughts really aren't real. But the more we think about the exact same thoughts and give them that emotion, like we talked about earlier with our vision, if we give them our emotion to those thoughts, they become real. Now they're a belief about us. So if they start to become a belief, now I'm always stressed and I'm probably chasing results. But it's getting back to the breath. We talked about the breath. That's one way. Even visualizing yourself, having your best at bat or your best presence on the mound or in the field, getting back to that. But it all takes self-awareness. You just got to be aware of it. If you're the rattle box on the field who's ping pong mind and comes in and blames everybody else and you're playing the blame game, poor me, probably not going to work out for you. Your career's going to get cut short. And your teammates probably aren't going to enjoy being around you either, because it's all about you. But if you put the team first and understand that whatever I'm doing here is going to help my team win, and me being my best version is going to help the team win, and calming and collecting my emotions, that's going to help you. So I think to answer that question, if you're feeling the stress and you're feeling stressed out and you're not feeling confident, identify the signal. What is it that's tripping me up? And then ask yourself, is this thought I'm having real? Majority of the time, you're going to be surprised that this isn't a real thought. It's crazy to think about, but it's very, very true. So that's a simple formula that takes 30 seconds, but it just takes self-awareness to do during the game.
And if you guys have questions, pop them in down below. We got about 20 minutes left with Austin. One of the things you talked about, Austin, about, the best version of yourself. A concept that I talk to players about is there's nothing wrong with being selfish as long as it doesn't get in the way of team goals. Meaning, you might have you might say to me, Austin, or Coach, I want to be a big league baseball player. That's a selfish thing to say, okay? And that's okay to have selfish goals. as long as they don't get in the way of what your team goals are. You could
Mm.
be and play and practice as much as you want to, and put up great numbers so that you become a big leaguer. But if that mentality gets in the way of, the team, meaning say 3-0, you expand the zone and your team is down by 1, you need to get on base, but you expand the zone and get yourself out. That's a selfish thing to put yourself in front of the team. But if you take that walk, and try to get yourself, in the scoring position by stealing base or whatever, that's putting yourself or I'm sorry, the team in front of, personal goals.
Yeah, that's huge. That's absolutely huge, man. I think just having the awareness again, like what you just said, boom. Like, what am I doing? Is it a team at bat? Is it a selfish at bat? Now, I want to ask you, Nick, like as a coach, how do you? I'm fascinated by this, and this is a question I can't take credit for this question. Cameron McMullen, Chapman University. You may have met Cam when he was at
Dr.
Nevada and you were
Dr.
at San
Cam,
Jose.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Cam, baby, the doc, man, he's so awesome. He's bringing the fire every day, but he's big into the leadership, and he's been asking this question to coaches of all different fields. Now in baseball, there's no specific captain, like with the exception of Derek Jeter, like there's really no one captain on the team. In football, there's usually like the captain, Russell Wilson. There's usually a captain in basketball, Scottie Pippen, or a
Right.
captain in whatever sport, right? But in baseball, it's usually a collective group, and there's never really that one specific captain. So for you as a coach, how do you empower your athletes to take that leadership role? Is it me putting a role on them? Is it them accepting a leadership role? Is it somewhere where we meet in between, if that makes sense? Of like,
Yeah.
I can see this guy's got leadership traits. He may not be our best player, but he has people listen to him. Like, how do you get, this is my question, how do you get your message across to your players without you having to specifically say it to everybody consistently, like them translating it to their players, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think one of the things as a coach that you got to do is you have to identify the people on your team that have certain skills. Everybody's got different skills that they bring to a team. We had a really effective captain when I coached that was a catcher that hit 200, but he was rock solid behind the plate, and people had his he had other people's best interests in mind. Um,
Hmm.
the other thing that I think is critical when you're trying to diagnose your team and what they're all about is you watch them during, say, conditioning or lifting, and the guys that really get after it, they might not be the vocal leaders, but other people will gravitate towards them because they see that they work hard, and that working hard will translate normally to the field in some way or fashion. And once you identify those players, then you start seeing them, kind of develop into leadership roles. One thing that we used to do, we had a shortstop at Dartmouth that got to AAA. It's with the Blue Jays right now in player development. And what we would do with him, and it's similar to what Phil Jackson did with Michael Jordan, is you have certain teams that are doing conditioning or whatever. We would take him and put him and trade him, quote unquote, to the team that was struggling. And what we would
Hmm.
do, and we would normally do that with other players as well, you would start to see them kind of pull the rest of that group that wasn't performing as well, and you'd start to see them kind of pull that group into doing better. Same thing in say a batting practice group. We would switch one player and have them hit with a certain group sometimes because we wanted his work habits to kind of rub off on those other players, and that's a culture thing that you start building with players. Um, so those younger players, they might be with a senior. Well, if they start hitting with Austin Byler and they see, how you go about your practice habits, your habits in the classroom, things like that, then they start remembering, hey, at some point when it's my turn, I need to do that, and I need to be that kind of a quote unquote captain, even if you don't have that designation.
That's a really clever way just to encourage leadership. I've always been fascinated with leadership on teams, man. I think leadership's one of the coolest subjects ever. I think it's awesome in sports, and I think in sports we take it for granted because for some of the coaches in here or anybody who works a day job, there's a lack of leadership in majority of those day jobs, and I see it with not only my family's bosses and stuff like that, but other people as well, and other businesses that I've been a part of or seen. And it's crazy to see the lack of leadership. But I think that's the beauty of sports. That sports teaches us is leadership, and I like that. It's a clever way to empower your athletes right there, and to see how that can totally change the
Yeah.
energy within a group.
And there's, another way you could do it as a coach is, certain players on your team, you'll grab them on the side, not grab them physically, but you take them to the side and talk to them and go, hey, this is why we're doing this, because,
Mm.
and you start giving them some insight into what it is you're thinking. And once they start feeling like, hey, you know what, coach is talking to me at a different level, it starts to kind of empower them. And that's something that you can start with at any point. With a new player, you start going, hey, the reason we're doing this is, for the team is because of X, Y, and Z. Now that player is like, wow, coach told me something that was different than what he's telling everybody else. And, and then one of the things I would do is I would say, hey, Austin, I need you to talk to a couple guys and tell them this is why we're doing this. And, give that player some power to kind of talk to the rest of his teammates, and that's how you build, that captain mentality with certain players.
It's amazing, man. I love that mindset. It's awesome.
So
Very cool.
there's a lot of different ways to do it, and a lot of different ways that you can lead, and but the mental part of it is really, really critical. What your question is, it leads right into the same thing that you talk about on a daily basis.
Mm, absolutely. I totally agree. Now, what if, like, now as a coach and you played as well, you coach, you do like individual work now and player development. What are some of the biggest what are some of the biggest challenges you face when working with an athlete, if any, if there is any challenges of working with them? But how do you overcome those challenges?
I think the biggest thing from just a development standpoint is you have to assess the player with where they're at right now and where you see them being in, say, a month, 2 months, 3 months, and talking to them about it. One of the things when I work
Mm,
with players is, and the first thing I ask them is, what is it you want to get out of this? What is it that you're looking to do? Or do you need a better approach? Is your swing not very good? What is it you want to get out of this? And that's my way of telling the player, hey, I want this is, I've already coached, I've done my playing career, everything like that, but this is your career. So what I might see is something that you need to work on might not be exactly what you're doing or what you think you need to work on. And if that's the case, that's when development doesn't happen. Um,
mm,
so I think that's a big thing, and constantly talking to the player about where he's at in his process of developing. Hey, you know what? Right now, I don't think you're not going to be a home run hitter. Eventually, as your body matures, you're gonna develop into some extra base power and things like that. But you're not going to be, hitting 13, 15 home runs in college. I don't think. Um, and being honest with those players and their parents is a huge part of
mm.
the development process. But it takes somebody that's quote unquote been there, that can see glimpses of things in that player. So like if I were working with you, Austin, I might not see, um, the stolen base, part of your game, but I'm going, you know what? He's got quick hands, and the power isn't there yet. But if we can get his hands to work in concert with his body, there's a good chance that there's something special that's going to come out of this.
So it's
You
more
know,
specific towards like that specific athlete. Like there's no
yeah.
one way to do things. It's more of like, hey,
No,
this
and
is what I think you could do.
yeah, and I think this is a really strange example, but I'm going to give it anyways.
Yeah.
In Rambo Part Three, there's a scene where the Colonel Troutman is talking to John Rambo, and he says, we didn't make you this fighting machine. We saw you as a piece of clay, and we just chipped away at the edges. And that's how I look at player development. There's something inside of each player that's great. My job is just chip away at the edges so that what's really there is going to come out. And I think that's how I look at working with players is, my job is chip away at the edges so that the greatness will come out.
I love that analogy, man. Keep chipping away. Let's chisel the rock, right? Let's chisel the
That's what
rock
it
and just
is.
fine tune some things. And hey, we're gonna get you to where you want to go.
That's
That's
what it is.
beautiful.
So, yeah, we got about 5 minutes left. So if you guys got questions, pump them in at the bottom for Austin and I. I think that, talk in some of the time we have left, Austin, about, Major League University. If people want to jump online, if I was a kid that said, I have no mental game right now, where do I start? How do I get in touch with you? How do I find, resources to build my mental game?
Yeah, great question, man. So DM me or Major League University on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, email, website, majorleagueuniversity.com. We're everywhere. There's a lot of different platforms to reach out to. We'll respond to every single one. Even if you just have a question, if you're like, hey, this is struggling, like Soto had one in here about just, hey, how do you handle stress? Like, what happens if you're really stressful? Send us the question. We respond to everybody. I don't care if you're 6 years old, if you're 18 years old, if you're 25 years old. We're going to
Mhm.
respond to you. We're going to help you. We want to help you get to where you want to go, not only on the field, but off the field as well. So those are some platforms that you can reach out to. You can DM me personally at Austin Byler on here, or Twitter, or any of those platforms too. Very easy to find, pretty simple. And then if you want to join any of the programs on our website, you can join the exclusive mentorship program, or if you would like to do the baseball school that's running weekly, every day, 1 and 2 o'clock, 1 p.m. for athletes, 2 p.m. for coaches. We're taking anybody and everybody. You got a pulse, come on in, have some fun. We're doing by the way, we're doing full uni Fridays. So tomorrow we're doing full uni Friday. So we're having the athletes dress up in their uniforms because they don't
Nice.
get to go on a field. So I know a lot of these athletes are like, man, I just haven't got a uniform on. They're wearing their full uni. So I'm excited to see what some people come up with. I said, if you get eye black and wrist tape and fake chow, you automatically win if you got stirrups too. So it's going to be game over, man. But for that, you can just message us. We'll send you the link. That'll be a weekly deal for the next now almost 3 weeks. So this will be the end of our first week, and that's been incredible. It's been awesome just to be able to provide some value up front and to see people taking notes. We've got anywhere from an 8-year old taking notes to an 18-year-old taking
Yeah.
notes on some of the same content. So that's it's been powerful. It's been very eye opening to me.
And I think that if, one of the things I do is when I see you on a live session or just some of the stuff that you're doing right now, Austin, I just listen to it because there's something even that as a coach, I can pull off and go, you know what, that makes sense. But I'm going to use it for not only baseball, but I'm going to use it for, what I'm doing in life as well. Because I think that that's stuff that you need. And one of the things I love what you're doing right now, it's free. So, logging on and just doing it is critical. Might as well do it because if you got the time, log on. If you're on the East Coast, it's 4 o'clock. If you're on the West Coast, it's 1 o'clock. Take some time to develop your mental game.
Yeah, we're trying to eliminate all excuses. So the common excuses, I don't have the money. Okay, well, you got $150 a month for McDonald's and Taco Bell and Starbucks coffees, but you don't have it to work on your mindset. That makes sense. Or I don't have the time. Well, you can't tell me you don't have the time anymore. Come on, baby.
Yeah,
Nobody
exactly.
has, like, we've all got too much time. So take an hour of your day, come in, sit down with us, whether you like us or not. Maybe you hear something that helps you, a little nugget that can help you in your career. You never know who you're going to learn from. I tuned into yours with Rooney. Tuned into yours with Stanzieri, and both amazing people. And I learned a different nugget. And you guys talked about totally different things. But I
Yeah.
found something in the pitching aspect to use with my athletes, and I also found something in the recruiting and the college baseball world that I can correlate into just life. And so, if you pick and choose from just everybody you hear from and talk with and different mentors, the best part about social media is this is all free. I mean, you can sit in with a high level Division I coach who's done amazing things in his career, is working with a lot of great athletes, and just listen. Are you kidding me? For free? Just you can even play your video games and put this up to the side and not even really be paying full attention and hear something
Yeah.
that you can take into your game immediately. So I think this is a beautiful thing, man. It's been an honor.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm posting all of these interviews that I have on YouTube so that you can, if you forget something, inevitably you're not going to remember everything, or maybe you logged on late. You can go online and listen to it on YouTube, and play it over and over and over. So that's one way that I can give back, similar to what you're doing right now, Austin.
Where is that? Where can we find that on YouTube? Because I'd like to go
I,
back and watch and subscribe too, just to support.
you know what? If you go to my Twitter page, Coach underscore Enriquez, I posted on there. I need to make it a little bit easier to find for sure. But if you just go, if you go to my Twitter page, if you go to Instagram, I'll post the addresses so you can go on there and go and just read it, or listen to it. And I think that's a way to kind of give back, to help people. So we are just about out of time, Austin. I know we probably, barely scratched the surface with stuff. But I love what you're doing. I am 100%, in love with everything that you're talking about. And I think the players really need to take advantage as much as they can, in this downtime, of just getting your mental game right. And there's the expert right now. And the thing I like about you, Austin, I'm gonna give you a little props, is you played at a high level, Division I. You played professional baseball, and now you're doing the mental side of it. So you've got experience that you can relate to.
I appreciate that, Nick. Definitely means a lot to me, man, and I'm proud of what you're doing as well. And this has been awesome what you're providing for the athletes and coaches and anybody who decides to come in here and watch this. I mean, it's free 99. Nobody's charging you an entry fee for this. Like, take
Yeah.
advantage, right? Take advantage, and you're always pumping positivity across all platforms. And it was great to play against you. It would have been cool to play for you, and now just to be able to connect again on another level, man. I'm excited to see once this thing shuts down and we're able to get back in person, what we can do together in the Bay Area, and just be able to provide value to the athletes, parents, families out there who inevitably are looking for new ways and innovative ways and things that are going to help their kids, their athletes, their families, et cetera, all the above. So I'm excited for it, man. Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Absolutely, Austin. And I'll post this on YouTube hopefully by tomorrow, if at the latest on Saturday, so people can go online and check it out.
Awesome. See you, Nick.
Thanks,
See
Austin.
you guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks,
Appreciate
buddy.
you, man. Have a good night.
You too. Bye bye.